If we open the door to superstition, where does that lead?
I feel she's there, trying to reach me.
I believe even the most rational minds can play tricks in the dark.
It's the Woman in Black. Hi guys, and welcome once again to Gunther's film review. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Woman in Black, starring a little-known actor known as Daniel Radcliffe. Some of you may know him from those very, very small independent films, Harry Potter. But hey guys, let's go on with the review. Before I went to see the cinematic version of The Woman in Black, I was fortunate enough to see the stage play version. My girlfriend had kindly bought me a ticket to watch in the West End with her. Thank you for that, Rach, if you're listening. And we went to see it, and our expectations were such that we thought, well, it might not necessarily be that scary. It'd be a fun ride. It'd be a very enjoyable experience, I'm sure, but it might not be that scary. After coming out, after its 2-hour running time, I completely changed my opinion. It really did put me on edge, disturb me, shock me in places, and that was due to the sort of very palpable sense of dread along with terrific lighting and sound design. And that was something that the stage play did very, very well. Its use of sound to shock an audience was absolutely fantastic. So I suppose my expectations were very high going into this film. It had a huge heritage behind it in the play version and the novel by Susan Hill. So, and also I was wanting to see what Daniel Radcliffe could do post Harry Potter. But let's talk a little bit about the plot of the film. Now, the film takes place in sort of very early post-Victorian England. It tells the tale of Arthur Kipps, a recently made widow who has a son, and he is a lawyer sort of on the outer edges of society. He's very poor and he needs money. His law firm offer him a job up in the north of England to secure and sort through the papers of one Alice Drablow, a recently deceased woman who owns a very large property known as Eelmarsh House. Arthur goes up to the village, whose residents, let's say, aren't very welcoming, and what ensues is probably him being haunted by an evil spectre around a house, and him trying to come to terms with, one, his grief, but also the purpose of this ghost and why she is haunting him, as well as a vast majority of people within the village. Now, I think Daniel Radcliffe does a very serviceable job within the film. He does exhibit all the emotions that you would expect from a grief-stricken widow, and I was very surprised actually with the expression through his eyes, which I thought was fantastic, and it reminded me of a performance earlier this year by Michael Fassbender in Shame. I thought Radcliffe did a great job. I mean, to some extent he is the spectator in a roller coaster ride in this sort of film, and you know, he did a great job, and I do expect him to go on to do great things, but I don't necessarily think this is the vehicle that will send him up into the stratosphere after Potter. But you know, all credit where credit is due, he did a great job. But the same can't be said of Jane Goldman's script. Now, Jane Goldman wrote 2 films in recent years that I think are absolutely terrific, Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. They were 2 great films in their own right. But here she has changed the motivations of certain characters and why they are trying to discover the reasoning behind the haunting. And I found it disappointing. I found it sort of quench my overall desire for a resolution to the piece, and by flipping the motivation of one character in particular, in Kipps, Goldman sort of dilutes the overall shock of the piece, and it sort of ebbs away towards the end rather than going out with a bang, which I found quite disappointing. But what the film does do, and this is all credit to James Watkins as well as the production designers, is the sense of atmosphere and tension. it's palpable, it's fantastic throughout the piece. I don't know if you can see on this image that I've left up at the moment, but Radcliffe is looking through a window. If you look closely enough, there's a shadow of a woman, and that image in itself is quite creepy, but the film really does a good job of ratcheting up this sense of tension, which I felt it shared in common with another film known as Les Orphantos, or The Orphanage. Now, I thought I'd just put that image in there, not to be awkward, but it really does demonstrate the off-putting nature of some of the scenes within the film. As you see there, the woman was standing there, just looking, but simultaneously blending into her surroundings, and it really does add to this sense of atmosphere within the film, and Watkins did a fantastic job in doing that. But I've got to admit, he relied very heavily on what many people in the horror industry call the Luton bus effect. Now, if you want to look up the Luton bus effect, just go onto your Wikipedia, I'm sure there'll be an entry up there about it, but it's essentially the idea of misdirection and jumping as a result of normal occurrences when you're expecting something more sinister. The film does this a lot, it does it to death, and I felt that it did sort of put the film off the tracks, for want of a better phrase, where they should have been relying more on this disturbing imagery. I mean, other examples of the imagery, I'm not going to spoil the film obviously, but such as rocking chairs and toys and weird paintings within the house, it really did suffocate you in dread and atmosphere, and I do credit the film for that, but equally with the jump scares, I criticise it. As for supporting cast, Kieran Hines, brilliant actor, he's been in some fantastic films in the last year, The Debt, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He plays Kips's only confidant within this tight-knit community and shares his underlying beliefs on the supernatural and grief itself. And, you know, he offers up a lot to the table. He's a fantastic actor and he really does support Radcliffe well. So guys, well, before I start, I'm sure you're all thinking, where has Gunther's luscious long locks and beard gone? Well, I had to shave it off for a wedding, which was an absolutely fantastic day, but I will be growing it back in due course, so don't everyone panic at once. But anyway, on to a score. What would I give it? Well, I enjoyed the film. I did enjoy the film. I thought it was a fun horror film, and it had some good points about, as I said, atmosphere. There was some great imagery within the film. I forgot to mention, but the house itself was a fantastic character. As well as Daniel Radcliffe did a serviceable job. Kieran Hines, as well as the supporting cast, were all fantastic. But the film does have its problems. One is its over-reliance on jump scares. It's to the point where I was almost getting fed up of it. The screenplay is something left to be desired. Jane Goldman could have done a lot more with the source material here. And by changing one incredibly important facet of the story, I felt she diluted the overall resolution at the end. So with that, and knowing that people just want to go to be scared at their wits for 2 hours, I'm going to give this 3 out of 5. Hope you enjoyed that, guys. In the meantime, check out my blog site, or likewise subscribe to my YouTube channel. Next week I will be reviewing The Muppets, but it leaves me to say, have a great week, and I'll see you soon.